I'd like to do at this point is bring Mary on, a young person representing the continent of Africa, talking about some of the ways technology and what young people are thinking about violence against women. Thank you, Mary.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us, and thank you very much, Honorable Weatherspoon, for the great invitation. I was born in Nigeria, so my story is most related to Nigeria's story. Nigeria, as we may know, is one of the most populous country in the continent of Africa, and it indeed has one of the highest rates of domestic violence. A small-scale study conducted in Lagos and in Oyo State revealed that 65% of educated women have been beaten by a partner, a boyfriend, husband, or their fathers. 56% of lower-income market women experienced similar violence. So violence is irrespective of socioeconomic status. As a young person in Nigeria, it's quite difficult relating this to my experience, because many young people do not have a voice, nor are they given a platform to talk about how they feel or to share their stories. So emotions and voices are suppressed, oppressed, or repressed. People are not helped to find their voices, nor are they encouraged to tell their stories. So effective communication or storytelling are not used as effective tools or platforms for young people to deal with challenging circumstances. And I think this is where technology comes in. A lot of young people, for example, there's a blogging platform called Nairaland, which allows...
Repeat that and spell it first.
Sure. Nairaland is spelled Nairaland, and this platform was started in 2005. And I started following the platform when I learned that a lot of young people were anonymously describing acts of violence committed against them. So what would happen is you register and you sign in, doesn't have to be your real name. Only the owner of this platform can possibly trace your IP address. And when you go there, you really read about young people's stories on how their fathers have, beat them or committed an act of violence. They would post pictures as well. You hear stories about rape, you hear stories about incest and different things. So people are using this as, I see it as people using it as a form of therapy, because Nigeria is a place where there's a lack of people are not encouraged basically to get psychological help or to visit a therapist. So there's that sort of breakdown in the mental health system, which I think is very important when dealing with issues of violence against women and particularly young people. So so what happens in a system where young people's voices are oppressed? You read of headlines, for example, 20-year-old banker stabbed 76 times by her spouse. Father tells daughter how daughter was killed by boyfriend. Father blames financial hardship on a 6-year-old daughter who he claims is a witch. And so he tortures her for many months. So we have to look at this in a very holistic approach, considering the cultural system that violence operates in. So obviously there's a breakdown, for example, in the legal health system. Nigeria is one of the most corrupt nations in the world. And so how do you deal with that in terms of when women are reporting acts of violence, the police possibly could also become the perpetrator. So most women are not encouraged to report this, because if you go to the police station, they'll not only laugh at you, but there's no support system. So there's obviously a need for a holistic approach, legal counseling, mental health counseling. More women need to be economically empowered, as well as outreach, as she stated from the speaker who's representing Mina also stated. There's this popular story that I think still haunts me today, I think which properly shows how this breakdown is really extreme and shows that something actually needs to be done. A young student from Abia State University was raped, and the rapist recorded this violent act on mobile phone. They posted it online. Not only was their face actually shown in this act, nothing happened. The only thing that happened was sort of a reactive response. There was a walk. People in Lagos, Lagos is one of the most progressive places in Nigeria. They had a walk, but legally nothing happened. The woman's face was shown on this mobile phone, so people are using their technology for negative uses, but nothing happened. So I'm just going to talk about women's strategies, things that I think need to be done. Nigeria needs to find ways to strengthen the legal systems. And since religion is a very huge part of Nigeria's culture, I remember Bill Gates in an interview with Charlie Rose was talking about the polio vaccines he was working on in Nigeria. And he said, we don't interact with people without first engaging clergymen. So I think that most clergy people, regardless of religion, whether it's Islam or Christianity or traditional religions, have to at least be engaged in domestic violence training, laws, or they have to be engaged, because I think if at least one person from a religious congregation is engaged in this domestic violence training, it would indeed make an impact in society. We also need to strengthen the mental health system as well, and also reorient the police officers to take the DV seriously, and also funding for civil society organizations. A lot of organizations are doing great work. Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in Africa. And so you can't possibly, if over 65% of women are being abused or victimized, you can't, the funding basically is not enough. So people are doing a little with the little amount of money that they have, but more certainly needs to be done. So there's that lack of adequate funding for NGOs and civil societies who could possibly make an impact, as well as support from other women. There are a lot of women who go through issues of domestic violence, and they do not get support from women. That's the headline I gave of the 25-year-old banker who was stabbed by her husband 76 times. She went back home to her family, who told her to be a good wife and return back to her husband, because God does not believe in divorce. So a lot of women want to escape the situation, but there's that lack of support, not only from other women, but also from family. And the culture, I think, needs to change, and more needs to be done. So I really hope that I've been able to highlight some strategies that could be helpful: the legal system, reorientation for police, strengthen the mental health system as well, because if we're going to take a holistic approach, we can't just deal with maybe economic empowerment or really helping women, but it needs to be more than that, as well as helping other women to support other women as well, which is, I'm really glad that there are many women in this room to take an interest in issues such as this. Thank you very much for your time.